So now we're going to ink this plate in order to print it. I have my ink ready. It's black ink, to which I've added blue. I don't care for the brown blacks. I prefer the blue blacks, the deep blue blacks. And I just use mat board to spread the ink. You can use a brayer, but I just use mat board. Having done that, we have to clear the edges. So I put on my gloves, and I use the plastic surgical gloves because they last much longer. Rubber tends to perish as a result of the oil-based inks rather rapidly, and it's nice to have something thin enough so that you can really feel what you're doing. You should have gloves. It helps. It's possible, you see, to get hurt doing these things. There are 3 ways you might get hurt. For once, you could wear out your shoulder rocking. The edges of these plates can also become kind of serrated and rather rough, like little sawtooths, so you have to sand the edges. And the other thing is, when you're rocking, don't get your finger in the way. Now we wipe off the edges because you don't want a blob of ink to suddenly squeeze out and ruin the print. If the print is dirty, you throw it away. So we start off with this tarlatan, and we just remove the excess ink. Remember now, most of the ink will be trapped under those burrs that we mentioned. Perhaps some of it is trapped also in the little pits, but it's mostly the burrs which do the work. For the sake of speed here, we'll just wipe it like this, which pushes the ink out of the lighter areas and into the darker areas. This, incidentally, is a heating device, because in the winter it gets quite cold out here, and not only does it get cold, but your ink gets so thick. The ink that I'm using comes in tubes. I've pretty much given up buying it by the pound in cans, because it usually goes to waste, it gets ruined, turns hard as a rock. By the time you want it the next time, it's not useful. To get into tiny little corners, I use a pencil tip. After all, it's carbon. We're using carbon. Then I want to have these eyes very bright, and also the handle of the whip, like so. So now, check it, be sure, because a little dust gets on it, or one of your hairs drops on it, it'll print, and it'll ruin your print. So now we go to the press, and I set it down here, in a position that I know just about where my paper is going to be. And usually, if I'm printing an edition, I shall also put my little monogram here, which I can't find. So this is the paper that we use. The paper is archival paper, 100% rag, pH 7 or neutral, and it has to be blotted. And this paper is Magnani Pessia. It's my preferred paper, for it has a nice smooth surface, it's very sensitive, and if you make a mark on it, you can use the other side. It makes very little difference. We've used BFK and all sorts of different papers, Lana, but this one's the best. And the paper should not be shiny wet, because a film of water can repel the oil from the ink. So one has to make sure that it is not shiny in places. And then it has to be placed on the plate. And check to see the size is about right, and it is. And set it down like this. I put some newsprint on the top so that the blotter blot up any excess water so that the blankets don't end up getting wet. And then this comes down on top of it. I have found that this stuff, which is the material that usually lies underneath expensive carpets, works just as well as the felt. Although a set of felt blankets runs almost $100, this is cheap. And now we just, having adjusted this, we now run it through the press. In this instance, we're going to run it both ways. This way first, and then we reverse it and bring it back this way. Okay. It's a very easy machine to run. Pull these back, uncover this. You can see the embossment that the plate has made in the paper being soft enough, and here's the print. You might like to see how this particular print looks as a white line print. I wasn't too satisfied with it. I felt that more could have been done with this print than I did, and so I abandoned that, re-rocked it, and then printed this, having burnished out a new image. This image, by the way, is of a print that has already been editioned, and you cannot leave it floating around as an extra outside of the edition, so one destroys it. I think it might be of interest, just with a pencil you can indicate what the plate number is, whether it's an artist proof, that's AP, or maybe number 3 out of 7, or whatever the particular number is, and then you sign it over here, and you put the title right here. I've already inked the yellow plate and the red plate. Now I just have to ink the blue one, and once that is inked, we can start doing a 3-plate color mezzotint. These plates have been used a number of times. They are not in very good shape. They've been used for demonstration because it's easy to take them with me to a place that wants to see it being done. So now we're simply spreading the ink, and after that we'll have to wipe it. It's very important, you see, I have only blue everything here. There's a blue bag, there's a red bag, and there's a yellow bag. And it's kind of important to remember to keep the yellow away from the blue, or vice versa. Because if they get together, you'll only have greens. So now we have the plate, wipe the edges, and we're going to remove the excess ink. The light here is perhaps not as easy for you to see as it is for me, but the most important thing at this point is to make sure it's the right way up. It's very easy to mistakenly print it upside down. So there's the blue plate, and we can now proceed to print in 3 colors. Of course, where the blue overlaps the green, the yellow, it will be green. So the first plate goes down here, and we need to put some paper on it. I have the paper already blotted,